name's Sully. I'm here with Dead City Games, with my friend Jessie. He's
Hello.
going to show us his Jarl Vetreiđi deck and some of the changes he made to it. So Jarl Vetreiđi just came out recently as a CC Armory deck. This will obviously have some parts of it, but he has definitely made his own changes to it. So Jessie, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, so Jarl's been a hero I've been excited for a long time. I was one of the people that really enjoyed the ice meta. I enjoy control decks in general. I played blue in the brief time I played Magic. So I was really excited when ice was making a return. Jarl playstyle's a little bit similar to Oldhim, but definitely has less power overall, which puts him in a much better spot for the meta. It's not as oppressive. He has clear strengths and weaknesses, which is definitely what I'm going to dive into and go over here. And so Jarl's biggest thing that he has is his entire deck is going to be focused on equipment destruction, which for his case means you're going to be playing cards of Mangle.
Mango, a fantastic crush effect. If it deals more, 4 more damage, destroy target equipment with a -1 counter. So either one that you're going to give it with some of your other cards here, or just one that they have a block with innately because they blocked another dominated crush effect or something.
Yep. So basically, anytime they -1 counter, you are threatening to destroy their equipment, and there's ways to buff that up, which we will definitely get into. Ways to get Mangle in hand: you have his Unforgetting Unforgiving card, which is a 4 block, and if they have a -1 counter when you block with this, you can search deck for Mangle, banish it, and you can play it until the end of your next turn. So it's really great for setting that up. And then for the actual -1 counters themselves, the easiest way to force the counters on is to use Crumble of Eternity. It's a 0 cost Ice Earth action, which is great for fusing and stuff like that blocks for 3. When it enters the arena, put a -1 counter on equipment, and then at the beginning of your reaction phase, it gets destroyed but gives your first attack Dominate. So it's your whole turn to play it, but it's really good for setting up to get like a Dominate Mangle.
And ideally, if you have Unforgiving in your hand to be able to block with on your opponent's turn, get the Mangle guaranteed.
Yeah.
A great combo.
Yeah, just some beautiful synergy there. And then the final equipment card I run, Expose the Elements, is in the Armory deck, which is also a great substitute if you don't want to run other options or if you want to run additional equipment destruction. I find generally Mangle and this card here, Frozen Death, which is also in the Armory deck, is enough. 3 costs, Ice Guardian action, blocks for 3. If it was ice fused, you may destroy an equipment with a -1 counter. And then also create a frostbite on an exposed equipment zone.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one.
Yeah, so it's great because your opponent doesn't really get to interact with this one. Expose the Elements is countered if they have the 2 pitch to pay for it. They can keep their piece around.
Yep.
Frozen Death is just straight up, hey, that piece has a -1 counter. So unless you have some crazy instant speed response to this, it is just getting destroyed. Which when you're playing into some decks, like especially like Wizard and stuff like that, you can just take Storm Strides away from them, and
Yeah, and it's like, are you getting, if you're playing against a Kano, you get this turn 0, and it's like, well, you can try and pop off now, and probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So that's his biggest goal there. And then if you actually manage to achieve said goal, every time you play an ice card, Jarl's ability is you put a frostbite into an empty equipment zone your opponent has. So as soon as you start breaking stuff, start giving them frostbites, I find you only generally need to get 1 piece of equipment destroyed. You only really need the 1 slot. It's relatively infrequent when you play 2 ice cards in the same turn as Jarl.
Yeah.
Go again's kind of hard to come by on everything.
I was gonna say, I definitely don't think there's a huge amount of go again in a Guardian deck, and if you're getting something like an agility token given to you or a quicken, you're probably already winning.
Yeah. So the most common ones that you're going to see for that is Winter's Bite in any color. I really like the blues, and then obviously classic ice card Channel Lake Frigid, just making everything your opponent wants to do cost more waltz around.
Absolutely hate Channel Lake Frigid. Terrible card. Ban it. No, no. It is superb. It says to any aggro hero, have fun, good luck. Your 0 costs are now 1, and your deck is now terrible.
Yeah, and now every single time I play an ice card, I effectively give you -1 value into your next turn because suddenly you need extra resources lying around.
It's fantastic. Winter's Bite also terribly annoying to have to deal with, and pay 1 or discard. It's just rips a card out of hand. Yeah,
and then by also giving them a frostbite, you're affecting them during your turn.
Yep.
And during their next turn as well, so you get it on both ends. Yeah, I think the final ice card that I definitely want to talk about is Channel Mount Eisen. This is the card that will close out your late game. It's go again when you play it, just like Channel Lake. Has Channel Ice, just like Channel Lake does. Blocks for 3. It's a nice card. At the start of each hero's turn, they lose health equal to the number of frostbites in their equipment zones.
At the start of each hero's turn.
Each hero's turn. Yes.
And now this is a they.
They meaning the hero.
They meaning.
So at the start of my turn, you don't take damage from your frostbites, but I would take damage if I had frostbites in my equipment zones.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it does affect yourself as well. So in the mirror, it could be a little bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it definitely could be. That definitely could be.
But it could also. But generally speaking,
Yeah.
probably paying off the frostbites for
Yeah,
the most part.
and for the most part, the mirror is the one matchup where this card doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
The matchup plays very uniquely. You're defending your equipment at all costs in the mirror because you don't want to give them that frostbite value.
Yep, definitely.
But this is how you close up games because it's startup turn, so your opponent doesn't get a chance to interact with it.
No.
Just, hey, your turn started. You don't even have priority yet.
It battles. Yep.
Right, you have frostbite there. Cool. I'll give you 2 frostbites because I played another ice card afterwards. Well, guess what? I'll lose 2 health.
Yeah, just the thing that happens. And
Yeah.
then channel ice as well.
Yeah.
How much of your deck would you say is actually ice cards in here?
I can tell you, I have that here.
Oh, awesome. Because I know there's ice as an ice earth. You can kind of go into kind of each.
Yes, and it's definitely my favorite part about Jarl. It's the same benefit that Oldham had, I found, that I really enjoy that Jarl brought that back, is the variety you have in your deck building choice.
Mm-hmm.
As you'll see as we go through my list has a lot of cards that aren't in the armory deck. I've swapped out a lot of those cards. It's not a de facto list. Jarl has a lot of options for creativity. You can go super heavy ice. You can go super heavy earth. You can go just guardian stuff. You can go generic stuff.
There's a lot of good options in there.
Yeah.
And it gives having the variety is something that allows a hero to be quite unique and powerful, and lets people have their own kind of feel to it, and let them do whatever works for them. So I do like that as well in this regard, having a lot of options.
Yeah, and so on that note, I did go more ice heavy with my list. My list, including my sideboard, has 26 cards that are ice, 21 not including my sideboard, which we'll get to. And then the earth, I have enough just for fusing for Oakenhold stuff, and there's just a couple of earth cards that are so good you kind of have to run, I feel. And I bought 15 of those altogether.
Gotcha. But then I'm assuming not looking for any decomposing.
No, I played around with it a lot. I found that in order to get decomposed to be working with any kind of consistency to match, I had to put in more earth cards than I felt comfortable with, and I was sacrificing power elsewhere, and I said, no, let me just embrace the control from the ice side and still run some earth cards that are really good in situational stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's the core identity of the deck, and so the next thing I'm going to do here is go over his equipment. I think the biggest thing is this new weapon, Summit the Unforgiving.
With heavy.
Heavy being the new trait.
Yep.
It's the only card equipped to your weapon zone. It gets +2.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something else in your other zone, it does not have that bonus. It costs 6 pitch to attack base value of 4. On hit, creates a frostbite in an empty equipment zone that your opponent controls. But now late game, once you have a shield that breaks, it now attacks for 6.
Yes.
Which 6 for 6 is an insane value on paper, but that on hit frostbite.
It demands cards out of hand, and if you're playing into someone who doesn't have 3 blocks, and needs to have that tight pitch numbers, then it can be a very problematic thing.
Yeah, if you get to late game, you and your opponent are getting lower on cards of decks. If you know you have more cards in deck than your opponent, you can suddenly just start swinging this every turn.
Yep.
You block with 2 cards, you swing for 2 cards, they have to give you 2 cards back. Otherwise, the frostbite's going to really hamper their turns, and you'll just gain value that way in deck.
Definitely.
And onto the note of the shield, I feel like the only shield worth running in this deck list is Stalagmite.
I think you're 100% right.
It's just insane power level. It's 2 block temper. When it blocks, create a frostbite. So you get to do it twice.
Yeah. It's just fantastic. You want your shield. You don't want to keep your shield around, because then this would go to being a 2-handed, not giving. It is equipment here. So
But when it breaks, it's not an empty zone, because since this is heavy, it takes that spot. If I was running a different weapon and Stalagmite breaks, now I have an empty zone, which in like the mirror match, suddenly you get frostbites there.
Yes, and that's where.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. Jarl's ability is only empty head, chest, arms, or legs.
Oh, it specifies.
Yes, it does specify.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not specify empty equipment. It specifies those 4 slots.
Interesting. Good to know.
Yeah.
So.
I only
disregard that last bit. But
I only actually run 1 weapon other than Summit in this deck, and that is Miller's Grindstone. And I have it in the list currently for 2 matchups. One is Kano. Kano doesn't really run any attack action cards, and against Kano, you want to keep as much pitch in hand as possible. So 6 pitch to attack for 6 is really expensive.
That's asking a lot of the rest of your cards.
And against Kano, unless they're in the D-React package, 4 damage is attacking is the same as 6, and Kano doesn't run a lot of attack action cards, so swinging Miller's Grindstone is relatively safe. There's not much risk of them clashing and winning that clash.
And if they take the damage, you can just maybe you hit a wildfire or something and get some value out of their deck.
And for the most part, even Miller's I'm not swinging much, and I'll get to that the reason for that right now. It's because of my AB setup.
What is your second matchup that you have Miller's for?
Prism. Yeah, and for Prism, I never want to swing this at face unless I know they can and want to block it. I never want trigger clash with Prism because there's a good chance of losing it. This is here to kill their auras.
Yep.
Because it's a cheap one-headed cost to kill it. This is 2 cards to do that, 2 blues.
Yep. Makes it very hard to
clear the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this will also kill their angels at 1 hit, because attacks for 4, and
Yep.
because hitting an ally does not trigger the clash mechanic, I'm not at risk of putting -1 counters on my Miller's Hammer.
It's fantastic in that regard. Just drops angels anytime you need to.
Yeah,
And
if
you can
I-
block with the other 3
And then
cards.
if I get late enough in the game where Prism's out of her angel allies,
Mhm.
it's okay if I swing face and this clashes and loses the -1. Yes, suddenly I'm swinging for 3 instead of 4. It's bad value, but it's not game ending like if it
No.
happens early game.
No,
'Cause-
if you draw a pummel or something blank, channel out Eisen into anything that Prism has that's going to be running an attacks of 7 or plus, and you're just like, oh, you're just sad then.
Yeah.
And even some of your attacks aren't really reaching too much past what Prism is going to have.
Mm-hmm. And then so for the rest of my core equipment, I run Tunic into almost every single matchup. It's just good resources every few turns. I don't run tech plating in my deck because I have very few Guardian attacks, so the Seismic Surge does not get value a whole lot of the time.
If you're leaning into Guardian more, probably tech plating could
Tech-
be a
tech
could be
plating
a
can
very
be
good
great.
option.
Yep.
I don't think
I just find you can never be wrong taking
Yeah.
Tunic.
No, I don't think you are. I think
Yeah.
Tunic is always just like, if you're not sure, Tunic.
Yeah, there will be matchups where tech plating is better, the extra block is better, you don't lose the equipment slot, so in the mirror that could be a stronger option.
Yep.
But I find the extra pitch every 3 turns is just way too so much easier to play around.
Definitely.
The gloves are, I believe there's the only gloves I have on my list is just the new Gauntlets of Boreal Domain. These are fantastic for Jarl, and this is what makes your Mangle game plan so much more achievable. So it's a 2-block temper, which means you can block it once for 2. It will break the second time you block it, so you want to avoid that until later in the game. But once per turn action, you pay 2 pitch. If an Earth card was pitched, your card's name Mangle is turn, get +2 attack.
Fantastic.
And if you pitched an Ice card, they get Dominate.
Mhm.
If the card you pitched is Ice Earth,
Ice Earth.
or let's say you underpitched into this effect by pitching a red Earth and then a blue Ice,
yeah.
that triggers both effects. So your Mangles this turn. I know it says Mangles plural, but
Right. If you
if you get 2 Mangles off
If you
in
get
one
2
turn,
Mangles,
you're
you're
already
winning.
Yeah.
things like Crumble to Eternity, if you pitch an Earth Ice action, it's blue. You have 1 pitch floating left over,
Yep.
and Mangle's 4. So you have 1 pitch and another blue card in hand.
Yep. So you're already spending 2 cards to swing
Yep.
Mangle most time anyway, so now that 2 extra pitch just
Pitch,
goes into
pitch.
that.
Superb.
Yeah, great value. It blocks well, so it's on par with the other Guardian gloves that we've seen, like the Gauntlets of Iron Will and stuff, where it's temper 2 block.
Yep.
You don't have the -1 power that has for the reaction and stuff like that,
No.
but the Mangle power in this deck is so good for keeping the deck's identity online.
And I feel like if you're not playing for the Mangle identity, it's you're kind of missing out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're missing out on the point of this. You should probably look towards other Guardians if you're not looking to play the Mangle equipment destruction.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see lists working with it, but I feel like he has so much synergy with Mangle. There's little reason to not be running them. And then for the headpiece, I'm running into most matchups Cornet Peak.
I think that is a good one. That is a terrible annoyance to have to deal with.
Yeah, it's basically blue Winter's Bite on a stick.
Yep.
But the biggest reason I run it in this deck is, as we've talked about, Summit's my main weapon in every matchup. This requires 2 cards to attack with. If I had to block with 3 cards from your attack,
Yep.
I have a 1 card in hand. Let's say I have a card in Arsenal I can't play. I can't really do anything. But with Cornet Peak, I can now pitch that blue, force my opponent to pay 1 or discard. Unless they have Tunic online, now they have a 3-card hand, which can then help me block less the following turn and swing back. And it's
even,
also
and
2 block.
even if they have Tunic online, get rid of that counter. It's
It's fine, yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And then the last slot is the boots. Currently, I ran the Rootbound Trunks, which is 1 block Blade Break. When this defends together with an Aura card, create an embodiment of Earth. So, like, if I block with Channel like Frigid, that's an
Yep.
Aura. That blocks for 3. Rootbound blocks for 1. Creates an embodiment. Now that whole thing blocks for 5. I have found in practice that that's good, but I think I'm going to be switching it back to Civic Steps, which is the 2-block temper. When you defend with this, give your opponent a
Yeah.
Quicken token. The Quicken tokens are a little bit risky, but
It can be, yeah.
but having the ability to block breakpoints twice with boots is the big thing. The block value can be considered the same if you block with 2 auras in the same turn with this.
And blocking effectively boots and a card for to block 5 is all right, but you need to if you don't have those cards in hand, you don't have an aura card, then it becomes significantly worse.
Yeah, whereas Civic Steps is any 3 block and Civic Steps first time is 5, and you get to do it a second time for 4, which there's a lot of breakpoints for 4
If
and 5
you're
in this
playing
game.
into another Guardian, Millers, or any of the 4 attacks, it's
Yep. Yep. I think that is it for my regular equipment. Yep. So then the only thing I've left is what do I do against wizards? We've already talked about Miller's Grindstone for Kano.
Yep. So you're running Millers.
And the reason I run Millers is so I can run Lantern.
Fantastic.
I'm not going to be using a shield against Kano. There's no physical attacks there that I need to be worrying about, except for like nourishing emptiness once per game. I've got the gauntlets for that.
Yep. And if they are running physical attacks, I feel like they're messing up.
Yeah. And then, so I feel like the rest of these are pretty straightforward. Null Rune Boots, Null Rune Hood, that gives you AB3.
Yep.
However, in Kano specifically, I switch out my tunic,
Okay.
and I run Heart of Ice.
Ah, yes.
This card, it almost feels like cheating when you're playing against a wizard.
Yeah, start a turn, just do it and say,
Yeah.
like,
So
you have to go now, or...
Yeah, for those who don't know, Heart of Ice is an action with Go Again. I pay 1. My opponent has priority to respond there within an instant. If they don't, for the rest of the turn, any cards they want to play or activate cost an additional pitch. So if they want to play like Storm Striders or instant speed spells or pop an equipment, grab a tunic resource, it all costs an additional resource for my entire turn.
Right. Fantastic.
So I can start my turn with all my pitch in hand, activate Heart of Ice. I have everything in hand minus 1 pitch. If my opponent tries to combo off, I've got AB4, tons of pitch in hand.
Yep.
If they don't, I know now I can spend all my resources swinging face because
And
anything they
it'd
want
be
to
pretty
do.
well safe, unless they have some insanely copious amount of pitch.
Yes.
In which case, you're dying anyway, so...
Yeah. Now that being said, I only run this into Kano. Into other wizards like Verdance and Celio, I don't because they run so many attacks. Miller's a bit more of a risk. So I drop the AB4 back to AB3, and I just go back to the classic Stalagmite
classic
and Summit,
Stalagmite.
because again, they run attacks. I can get the blocks out with Stalagmite, slow them down if they go again on stuff.
And still running Heart of Ice.
Still running Heart of Ice, that gives you AB3 because it's also an AB
Yep.
piece.
Oh, it's
And then
fantastic.
Heart of Ice is just, again, it's the pocket. I have 1 extra pitch on my turn. Let me find out if I'm pitching my hand to AB now.
Yeah.
So I don't leak a whole bunch of damage, or if I just get to swing. Like I played one on Saturday. And because I could Heart of Ice and then dominated Mangle, they wanted to pop their Storm Striders that had the -1 counter that was going to break, so they couldn't block the 10 dominate. But they couldn't do it because Storm Striders would cost 2. The first card they want to play would cost additional resource. The second card would cost additional resource.
It just makes the
It doesn't
pitch
work.
too hard to...
Yeah, unless they had several E-Pots on board. But again, activating E-Pot costs a resource.
Yep.
So you'd only gain 1.
You're only getting 1, and that's not a good trade.
No.
So
Yeah, so that's the equipment plan. That sums up pretty much everything into everyone there. Otherwise, just variations on that. Just if I run into like Rune Blades, I'll probably run AB1 on the boots.
yeah, I think boots probably are the least valuable one. Probably still run Corner Peak.
Yeah, and Rune Blades have enough things where it's like I'm okay not giving them Go Again off Civic Steps, for example. So
Yeah.
just putting AB1 down there.
No, I play a little bit of Runeblade, play a little bit of Florian, and the times where you see like, oh, I've been given a Quicken token.
Yeah, even into Prism, I'm playing around with running AB1 just because I find that matchup I take a lot of damage from Merciful Retribution across the course of the game,
Yes.
even while trying to get rid of them as soon as possible.
You're gonna take probably at least 3, and then 1 from some from Ravages, some
Yeah,
from
exactly. There's enough sources
enough
there.
chips, and then if you're not having, I'm assuming you're not running any like the healing cards in this deck.
No. I've thought about running like Sigil of Solace is the only card. I haven't quite found room for it yet, but it's close.
Yeah, it could be close, but if
Okay.
you're not running the healing,
That's
then-
not entirely true. I do have 1 healing card in my deck.
okay. Let's see it.
I am running currently Red Fruits of the Forest. I'm running 2 copies of it.
Ah, yes.
Part of it was to keep my Earth Ice ratio at a certain level for the open ult fuses, which is kind of your big power actual damaging card other than Mangle. For those who don't know, fuse with Ice and Earth, you have to do both. If you do manage to do both, it gets +2, dominate, and when this hits, they put 2 random cards on the bottom of their deck in any order.
Fantastic.
So it's 9 dominate for 3 pitch.
9 dominate for 3 pitch. Awesome.
Yeah. Now
And
the
then if you can hit it with a pummel too.
Yep, because you have to fuse, so generally you're either going to have 2 cards in hand and Earth and Ice, or the combo card that's Earth Ice Crumble to Eternity, or Pulse of Eisenloft,
Yes.
also on this list. Then if you have like, Pummel and Arsenal now, you can just pummel it with your second card, keep your other card to Arsenal.
And put it to 13.
Yeah,
2 cards at the bottom of the deck,
13
1 card
dominate.
discard.
Yeah, like you strip their entire hand apart,
Yep.
push a ton of damage because dominated, and you kept an Arsenal, so you have a 5-card hand going into your next turn. It
Fantastic.
is the only way you get tempo back this matchup other than the heavy ice cards like Channel Link and Winter's Fight.
And Fruits of the Forest, even if you have to send that as an attack, a 3 for 7.
Yeah.
Not bad.
No, it lets me value. It only blocks 2, but you can discard it to heal 2 health. So if people are swinging you for 4/4, I can kind of block 3, and then discard this and basically end up even.
Yep.
Instead
Yeah,
of blocking
and-
5, blocking 3 and leaking 1.
Even turn 0 if you happen to get it in your hand. It just
Yep.
like, oh, well,
Yep.
I start the game 2 health higher.
And then into illusionist matchups, it is another 7 popper.
It is another 7 popper. One of those ones that's a tenacity, Herald tenacity, I think it is, have minus
Yes, Herald
attack
tenacity.
-1.
Yeah, as well as the Figment tenacity and the Angel tenacity.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so it's really good in that matchup. 6s are a little bit riskier, especially in a Prism. They have a lot of ways to
Definitely.
damage
And
down by 1.
you'll get a 6 and be like, oh, I have a popper, and,
And then look
lo and behold, it is going to be the one that you
7 now.
cannot pop. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise, other notable Earth cards that I'm running in this list, I think Seeds of Tomorrow here is an absolutely fantastic card. You play it, put a card from your arsenal bomb your deck, prevent the next 5 damage you would take from any source this turn. Like, it's turn wide, it's multi-source wide.
Yep.
So aggro decks that are chipping you past your defenses, you can play this and then block the other 3 cards, and you've got this 5 prevention for anything that leaks over top of those attacks.
Those 2 Kadachis look very bad now.
Yep, we just play Seeds of Tomorrow when they swing that first or second one, and now Master Trigger is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
It is really good.
Also really good against Arcane. Works against Arcane, so against Wizards, it's basically our Oasis for Spite. I don't have Oasis in the list. I use this as a similar thing. The other reason I love this card, a lot of people I feel like haven't quite realized as much, is it lets you Arsenal garbage.
Oh, yeah. Any card you put into Arsenal,
Yeah.
it's good. You don't want to put Seeds of Tomorrow into Arsenal
That depends.
unless you think it's coming up soon.
It depends. Yeah, if Seeds is the only card in my hand at the end of my turn, I probably will Arsenal it.
Yeah.
If I haven't seen my other 2 yet. Obviously, if I've seen our 2 more, then it might be like, okay, no, I should just accept that. I should not have kept this card as the last card in my hand.
If you just saw the 2 previous turn,
Yeah.
and then you're just like, well, I have a whole deck of 60 cards to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, but overall, it's fantastic. Works against Arcane. It's good in every single situation.
It's just always good.
Yeah.
And
Great into the mirror when they try to dominate Mangle. This lets you block 1 card and block with this to block 8. You are not getting crushed unless they can also pummel their dominated Mangle.
no, and then if you are, you're probably
Already
it's
in
a
a bad
problem
spot.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Because maybe your D-React was an Arsenal, or
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
The other Earth cards I run, So Tomorrow in blue. It's very classic Oldham card. You put it in your arsenal, you play it at the start of your next turn, or even just tunic it out. You get specifically always used for Open Old, put it back on the bottom of your deck from your graveyard. So these basically mean if you get to play them all, you have 6 Open Olds in your deck.
Fantastic.
And we just talked about Open Old, probably your best tech in your deck.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And if you play it from arsenal, you get to draw cards so it replaces itself.
It's just good. And even if you just had Tunic, it's just even better than that.
Yep, I've had games where come second cycle, I know what my pitch stack is, so I can Arsenal So Tomorrow, block with my entire hand. Let's say I'm running Millers into Prism, for example. I can Tunic So Tomorrow, draw blue, use it for Hammer, or in other matchups, use it for Coronet Peak.
It's fantastic. And like Corner P, anything you can do to strip cards out of hand, anything you can do to keep tempo damage. Awesome.
Yeah, because you definitely will struggle to aggro decks that get to do their aggro plans.
Yes. I feel like that can be kind of a common problem. If the aggro hero is not getting disrupted and they're just going at it, you're going to lose that game.
Yeah, which is why I say the equipment destruction identity is so important to focus on, because as soon as you get one, you just need to get 1 slot out. And then I put very low priority on destroying it. I won't play more crumbles or frozen to death. I will just generally block in or pitching them at that point.
Probably don't need to most ones, because again, you're not playing more than 1 ice card.
No, and generally once you've broken 1 equipment, your opponent is a lot more willing to just allow their other equipment to go. They will activate their abilities, they will block with them, because they're like, okay, you already got the 1, that's the big one. And it is.
Yes.
Like I said, it's not super common you're going to be playing 2 ice cards in 1 turn.
No.
And it's the one that matters, because that 1 frostbite every single turn. It's like you're giving them an anti-tunic.
Oh yeah, no,
Every turn.
it's such a problem for a lot of heroes who run tight decks.
Yeah.
On that, it's and most heroes don't have the pitch to be able to circumvent it.
Yeah.
At least reliably.
And the last Earth card I'm running is Blue Lotus Touch. Classic Earth card.
Yep.
It's the only old Earth card that blocks for 3. That's the
Yeah,
only
no,
reason the
it's
deck is blue.
it's a blue, blocks 3, swings for 5 if you need it to.
I sure hope not.
I
You're sad if you swing these.
if you're swinging this for 5 and you have your weapon
Yeah.
that comes in for 6, you're
Yeah.
having a blue in hand and you're having one of those in hand. Just swing the weapon.
Honestly, if they have an empty equipment slot and you have your shield up and this only swings for 4, swinging this for 4 is better than a raw 5.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah. Unless it was
Even if they have equipment up, I will often swing that for 4 instead of swinging this for 5, because this loses a card out of my deck and this doesn't. And
Yes.
your goal into so many matchups is fatigue.
Mhm.
Same thing Oldham could do. You're just going to wait out their big turns, disrupt them as much as possible, get to the later cycles where you just get to be Guardian with Guardian value things.
good stuff. Yeah.
Now, the rest of my core deck, it's very standard Guardian stuff. I mean, we've got Pummel.
Almost only
which we
2.
talked about. Just 2 for now. They're 2 block, they're red,
Yeah.
they're 2 cost. You never want to see 2 of them in your hand in this deck. You'll never get
You
it
know.
played out. So I find 2
The
copies is
third-
a happy number.
The third could be good in some games and then absolutely be terrible in another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's games where I'll just see it and I'm like, I'm blocking this, and I kind of wish this wasn't even in my deck already.
Yep.
But the times we do get to play it, especially because I run stuff like CNC, I have Icy Encounter here right now.
Yep.
Tunic turns those into a blue,
Yes.
right? You pay a blue, CNC, 1 pitch, pop from Tunic,
Yep.
combo.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the classic combo. Otherwise, we've got some classic Guardian attacks in here. I mean, we've got Spinal
Spinal
Crush.
Crush. Yep.
Again, we've got CNC we just talked about. We've got Choke Slam in here for the attacks that do lots of buffing or reactions, so Warrior, Ranger, and stuff like that. We've got the one-fits-all E-Strike, which is just good into everything. You could run this card into every deck, and no one would say you were wrong for
Yeah,
it.
it's just good.
Yeah.
It's never bad saying I put a card from hand to bottom of the deck and 7.
Yeah.
Or go again. Or I want to have an arsenal because I know what card was on top of my deck because I played a Fate Foreseen and I want that in an arsenal. Draw a card. It's just
Yep. Oh, I have this and CNC and 2 blues in my hand. Okay, well, 5 go again into a CNC.
yeah. No, it's never not good. You're never going to be unhappy with these strike.
Yeah.
And blocks 3 to even add on to that too.
I'm running Macho Grande blues. I do have a Glacial Footsteps from every deck because I just haven't found my 3rd copy of Macho yet.
Fair.
I prefer Macho significantly in this deck.
Yeah.
Macho is 7 for 8 dominate. Glacial is 6 for 8 if Ice Fuse gains dominate, which means this is always a full hand.
Yeah.
It's 4 cards for 8 dominates because 2 to pitch it and 1 to fuse with it. This can be just 2 blues and Tunic for 8 dominate in late game.
Yep. Yeah, I think Macho Grande is definitely the more reliable one. Glacial Footsteps, if you want to pump those ice cards more, because that is it's not an ice.
Yeah,
It's
not.
ice fuse. I always get
Every
those ones
single
confused.
card in the game that fuses is elemental.
Yeah.
Except for Frozen to Death. Frozen to Death is also an ice card, even though it ice fuses.
Yep.
It
It
just an insane
it always
card.
confused me at the start when I started playing the game. Ice Eternal is not an ice card.
Yeah. Oh, and because we haven't said yet, the deck list will be in the description of the video if you guys take a look at. It will be the list I'm changing over time, so you'll see changes over time. I adjust it to either what the local store meta is looking like, or if I'm going to events I'm expecting to see there. But generally, again, like I said, the best part about Jarl, you have the freedom to try whatever.
Yeah. And you could go full Earth and Felling the Crown, Plow
Yeah,
Wonders.
go way more aggressive with it.
Yeah.
Or go way defensive and go super ice heavy, and you could run like, the fuse card that ticks down to hit their hand.
I'm not sure on that one.
Insidious Chill. That's the one.
Yeah,
you could run Insidious Chill.
Yeah.
And then you could go ice fuse heavy like Glacial and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
No, and then definitely I think you go Ice Fuse
Yeah,
heavy
and
if
you
you're
feel
going
like
to do
Amulet of Ice in that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to see that at all.
Yeah, and then otherwise, yeah, just some more generic, like some staple blues from Oldham type stuff. Winter's Grass, Blue Ice that blocks
Blue
3.
Ice block 3. Yep.
Pulse we've already talked about. It's always been a fantastic D-React.
yeah.
It's Ice and Earth, fits everything. Good when you play as D-React. Good
And
when
it's
you
a
get
blue.
some pitcher for its effects. Yeah.
Yep.
Last normal attack I run is Icy Encounter Red. This can also be Frostfang Red. I go back and forth on them.
Frostfang is on hit.
Frostfang's 2 for 5, blocks 2. On hit, pay 2 or discard. They're both ice cards. Icy
Yeah,
Encounter
this one-
is 2 for 6, block 2. On hit, get a Frostbite. Frostfang has the better on hit.
Yeah.
Icy Encounter's got the better damage stat. And this is another popper into like Prism and stuff like that.
And,
if
it's
you need more in your deck.
Prism. And playing it gives out a Frostbite phase.
Both of them. Yep.
Yeah, both of I've read both of them.
Which is where
Yeah.
Frostfang becomes incredible value.
Yes.
Right?
Both are good.
This would just add a Frostbite. Frostfang's like, hey, get a Frostbite, and on hit, you
And-
give me a card out of your hand.
Yep.
Because pay 2, so like Tunic doesn't get around it.
Yeah, paying 2 is great. Again, into those aggro decks, and you're playing against a ninja.
Yeah.
The ninja's already having a bad time, and you say, give me 2 of your cards, or you're only blue.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Ninja, why don't we get to my sideboard?
Yeah.
So, into stuff like Ranger, Warrior, Guardian, anyone who has the ability to go really tall or react to big numbers.
Yep.
My
Stock
only
response.
in my deck, I've got Stock Response, we've got Pulse, we've got Seeds of Tomorrow. Currently, that is it for my defensive cards.
No sync below.
Seeing below is definitely another option. It's just, again, what am I going to be cutting at this point? I do have
That
some
is fair.
sideboard stuff here we'll get to that is in the maybe category, which
Mhm.
could become Sink Below or Sigil of Solace.
I feel like a few things you can probably swap out if you need
Anything,
to, and
yeah.
if you really want to have that defensiveness
Yeah.
for sync belows.
Yeah,
because
the only thing I recommend is keep the pitch colors close to the numbers they're currently at. I found this is the right balance of
And
having the blues.
you have about how much with your pitch shows?
Let me check here. I have, including sideboard, I have a total of 38 blues in the deck, 29 reds.
Okay. Yeah, 30 blue, 29 red. No yellows?
Currently 1 yellow, but that's a very
Very
Special sideboard
Very
choice.
special sideboard. Yeah.
definitely not overall recommended. But yeah, so Staunch Response for anything that goes big and tall, paying 2 for it. It's fairly cheap. It's nice running Tunic with this, I found especially. Another reason for Tunic, because if you have an all red hand, you can play Staunch with 1 red.
Yep.
If you don't, Staunch suddenly requires 3 of your 4 cards to play.
Yeah.
And it's not a great feeling.
Definitely not.
But in the aggro decks, Blizzard. This card got so stupid in Jarl because now you play it like Icelander. In the sense that when Icelander played a blue, on your turn, it was a nice card, it gave you a Frostbite. If you have an empty equipment zone and Jarl plays Blizzard, you get a Frostbite, and then still have to decide if you're going to pay for Blizzard's effect or not.
Yeah. Do you want that go again? Do you have an extra blue?
Yeah.
If so, you're fine.
Yeah,
if not, you're not fine.
It's a 3 resource tax with equipment on. It's still 2 resource tax before then. Fantastic into anything that's going to be trying to go wide.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if things are still as redline as metas have been recently. Into decks like Enigma, I think you're still going to struggle overall with the deck, but stuff like this won't help you as much because they're going to have the extra pitch around.
No, but it will still do something, and on turns that it does help, it'll be great.
Yeah. And then, again, anti-aggro, Hypothermia. Costs your whole turn to play it out, 2 block ice card, but when you play it, attacks your opponent control, because they get this on their board.
Yep.
Attacks you control can't gain go again, which is so good in so many decks because you have stuff like Mechanologist that needs to boost for go again. You got Runeblade where it's like, hey, if you played a non-attack or made an aura or something like that, none of those can trigger now because they won't get the go again.
It's just one action if you have that as your only card and arsenaling whatever else, an Oakenold or something, anything else you want, keep those 2 at the end, play a Hypothermia.
Yep. And
here's
again,
a Frostbite, here's no go again.
Ice card again.
Here's my turn setting up with an Arsenal.
Yeah. So again,
everything you want.
Yeah, again, I went really heavy on the ice. I really think the control is what makes the hero shine once you get the equipment gone. And then my final normal sideboard slot is Warmonger's Diplomacy, especially when you're playing against Runeblades. Runeblades historically has been one of the rougher matchups for Guardian and Oldhim and stuff like that. So Warmonger is just having a turn of, you can only play half the cards in your deck, no matter which way you pick it.
Yep.
You might have 4 of the same type in your hand, you're fine.
Oh, yeah.
For the amount of times it'll work, it's great.
It also might not.
Yeah. And you've also got decks like Azalea really good into that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of decks that kind of just guts their hand. And so if you suddenly have 4 cards that are 2 of each type, this effectively was, you have IP2 on this current turn, like you're only playing with a 2-card hand instead of a 4-card hand, which is some incredible value.
Definitely.
And then one of my last sideboard slots, I have Corsham. Corsham is a landmark. I'm not running it for its ability or any of its effects. If I get like the 1 bonus from it once on my turn, that's awesome. It is solely here for playing against Prism to remove library from the board.
I think only be 1 landmark at a time.
Yeah, I played the matchup a couple times. I found that this was the one thing I need to be able to push through because both games I lost last week, I did not have Corsham in my list.
And against Prism?
I got them close enough to being decked out of cards. I was like, if they didn't have 5-card hands for the majority of the game, then I could have actually just turtled up and got through it because I had plenty of cards off the deck. I could afford to overblock.
This is, of course, Adam's Prism that we're talking about here, and you can check out his deck check and see why that deck is a problem. And this is starting to be some of our people who have the landmarks are starting to bring them as the answer to his library because not enough of us run yellow cards.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's only 1 yellow card in deck.
Which is also for Adam, otherwise it wouldn't be in there. But yeah, so I find Corsham, if you know you're going to be playing against a Prism, or Prism's at an event, you know they're running library, I think it's worth the deck slot just for that reason.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah. And the quote-unquote counter would be, okay, well, they just don't run it. It's fine. This costs 1 to play, and it has go again. Unlike the other landmarks, this does not take your entire turn to put down, because the 1 cost, you wait till you have a C and C or a C counter you put in your arsenal or drop in your hand, pitch a blue, get this out there, still swing damage or clear something on the board.
Even just tunic it out.
If you also tunic it out if you have the full block.
You have to full block, keep that.
Yep.
Tunic counter, put that out, get rid of library.
Yeah,
you call that turn good.
Yeah, as you can see from the deck list, there's a big reason I chose Tunic over Tech Plating. A lot of my deck list synergizes really well with the resource you can get from Tunic.
And not a lot of it synergizes that well with Guardian, as it's not a huge amount of Guardian attacks.
Yeah, and I've got one more card. Because I know Adams, after we played, he's like, okay, people are going to get rid of my library. I'm going to run Remembrance so I can get my library back a second time in the game. And against Guardian, especially the matchup will go long enough, you will get through the whole deck to see it and play it and get it out a second time.
Definitely.
I've also had 1 copy of Remembrance. You know what? You can play your landmark twice. So
This is gonna be fun, and I want to watch the games. I don't personally have a landmark myself for any of my decks, but I'm gonna love watching the games and see here it comes back, here this comes back again.
Yeah.
the game of that. It's just gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess I should clarify, Core Ship is a elemental landmark, which is why you don't see it
Yes.
in a whole bunch of decks. You have to be a elemental hero.
A
like
elemental
how
hero.
Jarl is a elemental guardian or
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that covers basically everything.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Jesse. It's been a
anytime.
pleasure, and I'm looking forward to playing against this and seeing this around.